New York's classic rock, Q1043.
Stephen Van Zandt is with us here at Q104.3, Rock and Roll Rebel. That's the title of the new box set, which weighs about 40 gazillion pounds. You've got so much stuff packed into here. When you put together a box set, Stephen, you put together a box set. Welcome to our show. It's been a while. I hope you're doing well. Yes. So what have you been up to?
Well, adjusting like everybody else. I think is the most I've been home my entire life.
Have you been using any of your bandanas as a face mask?
That's not safe, Jim. Yeah, well, not as
I haven't been going out much, I tell you. We had to make sure everything was working. First of all, making sure that the radio shows were all working. Most of my DJs are home, so that wasn't too bad. My music history curriculum is already online, so we were actually ahead of the game with that thing. All the teachers just continued using it, at home. And what else? I've been producing records on the phone, and my record label, the bands are constantly sending me songs, and so I can, I executive produce every single song, so that all can be done at home. So, most of the stuff has been just fine, and I just kind of been enjoying being home, and my dog is loving it, and my wife, so she's like, it's time to go back to work, but no, just kidding. It's been nice. It's been nice mostly, circumstances aside, which have been horrifying, but it's been actually, I haven't minded being home for a minute.
Shelley has been at home with her husband, and she's been spending a lot of time binge watching on TV, and she's just binge watched the Lilyhammer thing that you did a while back.
That's right. Stephen, you have to understand, my husband and I have to agree on what we're going to binge watch, and we have vastly different tastes. But I finally got him through The Sopranos, which he never saw. So he agreed to Lilyhammer, and lo and behold, we both loved it. So much humor in that, and the gore, and the sex. My God, now I miss it.
Well, we try to please, and we try to keep families together,
And you binge watched it where, Shelley?
You mean where geographically?
Like, where did you get it? No, where did you get it?
Oh, wasn't it on Netflix?
Yeah, it's still on Netflix.
Yeah, on Netflix.
Yeah,
I think it was
I
Netflix.
just wanted to make sure that it was still available there. There's so many places now.
It is.
And
it's so awesome.
And Stephen, Gene Cornish of the Rascals put on Facebook, I think it was yesterday or the day before, he did a big shout out to you for choosing one of their more obscure songs to include in the show Lilyhammer that had a guitar part in it that he was particularly proud of.
Well, that's part of the fun of the show. I mean, I got a chance to do many things, I was, I co-wrote it, I co-produced it, I did all the music, and even directed the final episode. So it was really fun for me, and to go from one new craft, which was acting in Sopranos, to five new crafts basically, and I had a ball, man. I kind of spoiled me for life, doing all that stuff.
For those who miss The Sopranos, that's why you gotta watch Lilyhammer. It's almost like we're watching a continuation.
Well, thank you. That's quite a compliment.
And I saw a friend of yours yesterday. Of course, when I say I saw, I mean it was on the computer. It was another Zoom fest yesterday. I saw Vinny Pastore. I told him I was going to be talking with you today, and so he sends along his love and best wishes.
Where we've been doing some Renegade Theater, which is coming up soon. It should be, I think, our first Zoom production. Vinny and my wife Maureen have a theater company together, and I directed Lovers and Other Strangers, which is a fabulous play by Renee Taylor and Joseph Bologna. It's like 5 vignettes, and so we it's kind of perfect for this format. Well, not perfect, but as good as it can be. So that
Vinny is and Vinny is teaching too.
Yeah. Vinny and Maureen also teach acting classes, and but we're pretty close to being done with this thing. I think we're probably only a couple of days away. So watch my Twitter feed for more information. But
we have a new version of the Rock and Roll Rebel box set, and is that how you would describe yourself, a rock and roll rebel?
Well, there's a bit of humor in that song.
I know, but the title itself, Rock and Roll Rebel, because you have been kind of rebellious in your career, quite frankly.
Yeah, it was a bit of a joke at the time, because the joke was, in order to be rebellious, my first band, we would bring exercise equipment around under the bus, because in those days there was no such thing as a gym in a hotel. So we decided to get in shape like for the revolution, and so the joke was, that we didn't do drugs, we weren't drinking, we were straight, straight that way, the old school meaning of straight, and and in order to be a rock and roll rebel, you had to be straight, because everybody else was so indulging. So that was the idea, and it was a bit, and there's a bunch of humorous things in it. I had just been kicked out of Disneyland, because they wouldn't let me into Disneyland, and so that's in the song, and it was going to be the time. Because of the way I was dressed, bandana and earrings, and I had bracelets and all kinds of things in those days, and rings and bracelets, and they wouldn't let me in, so that's in the song, and then in the end I said, I need to get more serious here, so I changed it to Voice of America, because at that point I was becoming 100% political,
And speaking of getting political, I mean, Sun City is included, the Artists United Against Apartheid, in this wonderful set, and that was a milestone for you and for your activism.
Yeah, that was a rare, complete victory. You don't see those kind of victories very often in the world of politics, and especially international liberation politics. It was a really special moment, and reminds me of John Lewis, my friend, who we just lost, who was part of that. I made so many new friends during that period. John Lewis and Julian Bond and Andrew Young and Ron Dellums and so many others to get that legislation passed, which was quite a challenge back then. Ronald Reagan was God. I mean, I know people these days, may not remember, but he was, this grandfatherly cowboy, sort of a smiling, happy guy, and making everybody feel good, and committing all kinds of crimes, around the world. And so one of them was South Africa. And so we had to not only raise consciousness about what was going on down there, but raise it to the point where we could overcome a veto, which we expected. And that's what happened. The economic legislation came up, and the disinvestment. And sure enough, Reagan vetoed it. And we had enough votes to override the veto. And then the government fell, and they had to let Mandela out of jail. And excuse me, it was just a complete victory. It was amazing, once in a lifetime victory. So
Steven Van Zandt is with us here at Q104.3. He's been a great friend of the radio station through the years. Of course, famously the co-host with Ken Dashow of the live Breakfast with the Beatles broadcasts. That take place several times during the year. And also his Underground Garage program is on Sunday nights at Q104.3 and other radio stations all over the world. And the very first radio station to ever sign up for that show was us.
That's right.
Right, Stephen?
And I am forever grateful, because nobody wanted the show. Nobody.
Everybody told you that it was going to be I mean, not every, because we didn't, but I know that you were told by many people that it would never work, and yet it has been a worldwide hit.
Yeah, we're 18 years and counting.
Huh.
Well,
Yeah,
that shows what the experts know, right?
and we've introduced over 1,000 new bands. 1,000.
Okay, now I need you to, because this is so awesome. I'm just lifting up the box set again. The Rock and Roll Rebel box set has final albums. It's got bonus tracks, a gazillion of them. It's got, well, 3 rare concert films. You've got to explain this. 7 LPs, 4 CDs. This is your first 6 solo albums, over 50 unreleased tracks, outtakes, B-sides, recordings of rehearsals, live performances. I mean, this is incredible.
Well, we're trying to get everything out this year, which is another thing we've been doing during the pandemic. Actually, I spent the first month mixing my new Summer of Sorcery live DVD, which we actually moved to next May for release because we just had so much stuff coming out this year. It was just too crowded. So that'll be the only thing that we actually saved till next year. This last tour we just did, which is going to be it's an amazing show. We're going to put out the show we did at the Beacon, which was the final show of the last 3 years. But other than that, everything else, including the Soulfire box set and all the individual records, are all coming back out remastered. In every single format, from vinyl to CD to digital, and concerts as well. There's a concert from the first tour. Remember that women tour? There's a concert from the Voice of America tour, and there's a concert from the Freedom No Compromise tour. Those first 3 tours, the first 3 albums, there's really cool concerts to go with it. So it's really just trying to get everything out now that I reconnected with my own work after abandoning it for 20 years. I finally reconnected.
You were busy doing other stuff, but that work was very innovative, and it had a great deal of influence on other work by other artists that people all over the world are familiar with. I mean, you really were very, very innovative, and obviously one of the founders of the whole, New Jersey Shore sound, but your influence goes way, way beyond that as an artist and as a producer and as a person who encourages new talent and always has. You have a knack for melody. You know that? Your work is, it rocks, but it's also very melodic. And
I think it's just growing up when we did, man. We are the luckiest generation, and I always say that, our parents or grandparents were the greatest generation, but we are the luckiest generation because we just grew up in a Renaissance period of the 60s, and the greatest art being made, the greatest music being made was also the most commercial. And we'll never see that again, And it was just,
you do know, Stephen, that you have an uncanny ability to find that melodic hook and really drive it home. I mean, you have that in your work. I mean, for people who haven't heard a lot of your early work, it was there from the very beginning.
Well, thank you, Jimmy. It was coming straight from the Beatles and Rolling Stones and the Who and the Kinks and Motown, Stax and the wonderful influences were all over the place in those days. I mean, Motown. Look at all the artists just on that one label. All of which, bringing us beautiful melodies, and I learned how to arrange songs from those records. My string arrangements, my horn arrangements, all come from really Motown, mostly. And
Stephen, can I tell you a quick Motown story?
Mm.
I don't know if I've ever actually talked about this on the radio before, but I have a Motown story to tell you. Is that okay?
Yeah, come on.
All right. When I was 14 years old, I had my first radio job at a little radio station in Ypsilanti, Michigan on Saturday afternoons. And one day, shortly after I started with that show, which had very, very few listeners, it was a little station, little AM station, at 1520 on the dial. I took the bus to downtown Detroit, and I went over to Grand Boulevard, and I walked into Hitsville, USA, the Motown Records office, which was in a home. You've probably been there. It's a museum now.
Yeah.
And I walked in, and I walked up to the receptionist, and I said, "Hi, I'm Jim Kerr." Remember, I was 14. "Hi, I'm Jim Kerr. I have a radio show in Ypsilanti, and I was wondering if there are any stars here I can interview for my show." And the receptionist said, "Go sit down over there and let me check." And then she came back a couple of minutes later, and she said, "Would the Marvelettes do?"
Wow.
And so I had my little tape recorder with the little carbon microphone, my little reel-to-reel tape recorder, and I interviewed the Marvelettes and played it on my show, and that was my first celebrity interview ever.
What year was that, Timmy? What year?
That was 1967, and I just walked in right off the street.
Wow.
No appointment, no nothing.
Different
It was
world.
awesome. It was awesome.
Just a couple years earlier, and the receptionist would have been Martha Reeves.
Yes, I know. Who later went on to serve as a city councilwoman in Detroit, and I met her at one of our union functions once. She's a grand dame of Detroit, Martha Reeves.
Yeah,
and you also have been prominent as a music educator. Tell us about the mission of Teach Rock and what you've been doing, including now during this COVID-19 crisis.
Yeah, we spent 15 years working on the curriculum and just went public with it last year. Basically, really quickly, the mission is three things: keeping the arts in the DNA of the public education system, because a lot of the arts have been cut. And we feel arts integration is a really important way of bringing this new generation in who are having trouble concentrating. So our second job was to create a new methodology for teachers to keep these kids' attention, who are faster than us and smarter than us and have no patience whatsoever. So we've done that, and we've done it with music. And the third mission, of course, is to try and affect the dropout rate, which is outrageous. And we've found that by using music as the common ground, kids will stay in class. If they like one class and like one teacher, they will come to school. So those three things are our main goals. And we now have 30,000 teachers registered, and we just started a podcast. Well, it's not a podcast because it's video also. So I don't know what that is, a vidcast of some kind. We did the first one last week, and the next one is August 6th. And we're doing it's like a talk show. You know, it's me and the world's most expensive second banana, Drew Carey, is my Ed McMahon, and we talk to teachers. We're going from town to town. We started in Cleveland last week. And August 6th, we're going to Detroit, where Martha Reeves, as a matter of fact, is going to be one of our guests. And we talk to teachers from that town, and we talk to musicians about the history of the music in that town. So it's kind of a fun new idea. And we're doing the first four for the foundation, for my Rock and Soul Forever Foundation. And then I may turn it into a show after that. We'll see.
And Stephen, you've also partnered with New York Edge to provide free distance learning resources to students in 100 New York City public schools during this COVID-19 crisis. So you've been right on top of that. How can people support that organization? Teach Rock Partners?
Yeah, I think it's,
from the Rock and Roll Forever Foundation.
Yeah, or teachrock.org, I guess, either one. Yeah, it's been known as the Rock and Roll Forever Foundation, which is about to change over the next few weeks to Rock and Soul Forever Foundation. But teachrock.org should work for everybody, you know.
Okay, and you know this educational program was launched by Steven Van Zandt, and then you know, when he starts an organization, he has to go recruit a board. Shelley, do you know who he recruited to be on his
Did
board?
he recruit you?
No, he didn't. But he recruited Bono, Jackson Brown, Martin Scorsese,
Wow.
and Bruce Springsteen. So he doesn't need me.
But speaking of which, Stephen, how do you and Bruce see a return to touring and how that's going to look for the E Street Band?
Well, I described all this stuff a few months ago in great detail, and I wish I could say that there's been progress in this area, but there really hasn't been. The 3 stages I saw it as was, first, everything's online, which is what we're doing now. The second stage, once we had a test that was not only accurate but fast, which has not happened, I felt that at that point everybody could go back to work, but with no audiences. So bands could start having concerts and broadcast them, you know, whatever way, and sporting events could take place again with no audience, and that would have been the second phase, which, you know, should have happened by now, and it's starting to happen in some ways. I know they started baseball yesterday or so. I frankly think it's too early, and I think it's going to be a mistake. Okay, just like I think going back to school is a big mistake. I feel very strongly about this. I think everybody's being bullied into opening the country, and I think it's way too soon because the testing never came together. Okay, it's not just the amount of testing; it's how quickly the results come back is what matters. You know, and it has to be within hours. You know, a test coming back in 8 days doesn't help anybody. You know, so I was hoping we would have a fast test by now, and that would allow us to start having concerts, and we'll see. You know, hopefully over the next couple of months, maybe something like that will take place. But then the third and final stage, which is the vaccine, you know, until there's a vaccine, there's not going to be any audiences. You know, so I was hoping for summer of '21 for that. I don't know now. Now, the way things are going, I wouldn't be surprised. I know it's a little bit depressing, but it's a real possibility we may not get to that till summer of '22, because it's just been too slow, and just, you know, no help at all from our so-called government, and it's been a pathetic and sad response to this emergency that could have been wrapped up. I tweeted like a maniac in March every single day, you know, the very simple solution to this thing, which was national quarantine, number 1, stop all bills to everybody, number 2, and number 3, give everybody some money for food. That was it. 3 things that needed to happen, and only partially the first happened. You know, we did some quarantining in New York to good effect. But there was no national quarantine, you know, and, you know, and I hate to pile on because, you know, Dr. Fauci is a wonderful guy, and I know the Republicans hate him for telling the truth, you know, but I'm really pissed off at him myself, you know, for not standing up when he had the opportunity, you know, and the national press conference, and saying we have to have a national quarantine. Without it, everybody is just, you know, is being foolish. You know, if we don't have a national quarantine, it's just going to bounce from state to state to state, which is exactly what's happening now. You know, so I blame Fauci for that, and he should have been stronger. And everybody said, well, he would have been fired, and I'm like, so what? You know, I'm so sick of all of this talk about, you know, we need guardrails, you know, with this guy, and you know, nobody can tell the truth because then they'll be fired, and they do a lot of good while they're there with him. I think that's all bull, you know.
Steven Van Zandt, during his entire public career, has never shied away from expressing his views,
That's true.
And I mean, that goes way, way back, like we were talking about before with Sun City. Stephen, I've been sucked into YouTube world sometimes, you know, where you go and you watch one video and then the next thing you know, it's 9 hours later.
The rabbit hole.
Yeah. And while I was sucked into that alternative universe a couple of weeks ago, I came across a live performance by the E Street Band at Madison Square Garden of Soul Man with Sam Moore.
Mm.
And I've got to tell you, when you went into that guitar intro, I mean, there's also the solo in the center, but when you went into that guitar intro, it gave me chills. Boy, did you have that down.
What gave me chills was in the middle, you know, on the record, Sam says, "Play it, Steve," talking to Steve Cropper.
Steve Cropper, yeah.
And he says, "Play it, Steve," you know, talking to me.
And it was you.
Yeah. So that was extremely thrilling for me. You know, Steve Cropper, one of my heroes, of course, you know.
And the great Sam Moore, a friend of ours for years and years.
Still fantastic. Still great. Still great.
Oh, his vocal with the E Street Band behind him, that was an awesome. If people haven't seen it, they should go on YouTube and check it out. Stephen, we're going to have to leave you now. Just how can people get this box set? I mean, people aren't going shopping these days. How can they get it?
For the first time in my life, I'm completely legit. You know, you can just get it like normal places. It's universal. So I'm sure, you know, iTunes or I don't know, Amazon or, you know, all the normal places. It's actually a legitimate company, you know.
All right. Well, if you're going to get this, you want the physical product. The digital product, you know, I'm sure will give you some oral enjoyment, but the actual tangible box set in your hand is really something important to have.
There's a lot going on, and you know, and the liner notes and everything explains it better when you have the physical product. Yeah.
Right. I miss seeing you in person, Stephen. When this is all over, you know, you got to walk down the street and visit us when we get back to Tribeca.
Absolutely. Good seeing you guys, really.
New York's classic rock, Q1043.